Welcome to At Home with Kelly and Tiffany, where naturally minded women gather together as we pursue simplicity and confidence in health alternatives so we can show up better in our busy lives and feel more at home in our bodies. Join your favorite home birth midwife duo for conversation, candor, and community.
You're at home with Kelly and Tiffany. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Kelly.
And insider information for our listeners. This is our second time recording this episode.
You know, we had high hopes for ourselves when we originally recorded this, where we were having like a family dinner all together and Tiff and I snuck away, and it was not good.
It was a dumpster fire.
My youngest woke up like in the middle of it and was only wanting to sit on my lap, and she was breathing all heavy, and I was like, you have to be quiet.
Yeah, the internet wasn't working, so my notes were not coming up. I was just making stuff up.
It was great.
It's really bad.
We should put that on like a B-roll somewhere.
No.
And another thing I just thought of.
But I did think of one piece of that episode, I think that was really a turning point that we should have recognized from the beginning.
Ooh.
I let you introduce the podcast.
It was a really kind and thoughtful, actually, I just sort of did it and it felt really freeing.
I'm never letting you introduce the podcast again.
I enjoyed it. And then that episode has since been deleted.
And you guys know how superstitious we are, so therefore.
So you're at home with Kelly and Tiffany, and you'll hear Tiffany tell you that. That's how this works. 100+ episodes in, I shot my shot, and it missed.
I can live with that.
I'm sure you can.
Today is a cool little topic that we get to dive into. Libido is an issue that is vast and complicated and stretches across so many different seasons of life and idiosyncrasies. And so I'm excited to bring awareness to it today.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so worth working on. Like, it's so worth connecting with your body, seeing where you're at, and doing something about it, no matter what the issue is. But libido in particular, like, this is one that your body will thrive that much more when you're paying attention to this.
And having sex.
Yeah.
And liking it.
That's a good little addition there.
Okay, before we jump into all of that, I want to remind everybody there is a link in every show note of the episodes that we put out there to your beautiful ears that allows you to submit a question that we will read on the show, potentially answer it to some degree.
Maybe.
If the question's good.
You can put a question in the question box. Can't guarantee it's going to be a good one.
It's anonymous, so if you put a stupid one in, we will shame you.
Anonymously. Great.
But we do have a really good one that I want to read.
Great.
This is what the listener says. Okay, I use the EWG app, which is Environmental Working Group for anybody who doesn't.
If you don't have that, if you don't have the app, you should get the app.
It's a win. For almost everything, and they make it so easy to find non-toxic products, but the one thing they don't have on their app is non-toxic lube. The only thing people say online is to use coconut oil for lube, but I'm not trying to get oil stains all over everywhere. Any recommendation?
I'm not trying to get stains everywhere.
No, we don't have time for that.
No. But coconut oil is a good lube.
Yeah, we like coconut oil because putting things on your body that you would put in your body is generally a good direction to go in. But one, it can stain cloth.
Yeah, quite a bit.
2, oil-based lubricants are not appropriate for anyone using latex condoms. Mm-hmm. They can break down the latex in them and make your condom not work well.
That's a problem.
That could be a very serious problem. So if you're using latex condoms, use a water-based lubricant. But you would be shocked to read the ingredient on the back of like KY, for example, or Astrolube or whatever. They're all petroleum based. They all have tons of parabens and preservatives and all kinds of freaky things that you don't want on your body, but for sure in your body on a mucous membrane.
It's really unfortunate that like these are like the main options that women stuff that's just going to wreck their bodies, whether you like actually feel it or not, right? It's just a toxic overload, especially in your vagina where it just wants to soak up a lot of stuff. Messes with your pH. I mean, there's just a lot that's wrong with that. But thankfully, there are other great options out there.
Yeah, well, there's actually a good handful of lubes that we could recommend, but I'll highlight one of them for all of you who are listening, and of course for our wonderful question submitter. It's called Aloe Cadabra.
Ooh.
What do you think is the main ingredient?
I'm gonna guess aloe with like a hint of magic.
Yeah, yeah, it's like magic aloe for your private part.
Is that their tagline?
No, but it should be magic aloe. Aloe Cadabra.
Great.
It is. It's aloe based. You can use it with latex condoms. You can use it safely inside your body. You can use it with any sex toys also. Not going to ruin anything that's silicone. It shouldn't stain. Aloe shouldn't be something that is a problem for laundry. There's also vitamin E inside of it, which is just nourishing. They have like 90% organic ingredients inside of this particular lube. And it's not just a slick lube, you know, like manufactured lubricants. It's like that's all they do is just like slicking things up. But this is actually like also a moisturizer.
Yeah, vitamin E in particular, like that's great for encouraging lubrication down there. Just naturally.
It's certified for pH balance, for vaginal dryness. They claim that it's not sticky, not runny, no parabens, no glycerin. And what I like about it, and I have not purchased this for myself because we're not in a season of requiring extra support in this area in my bedroom, but the packaging is discreet. So it almost looks like something you'd put on like after you've been in the sun all day.
Which is nice so that you feel, you know, like it's not on display.
Yeah, there's no silhouettes of people dry humping on the bottle, which I just find to be nice.
It's a great touch, Aloe Cadabra. Good work on that.
Okay, so we'll link that in the show notes. You guys can check it out. You know, once you get down the Amazon rabbit trail, once they discover what you're looking for, they start suggesting all kinds of great things for you.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, so sorry, very sorry about that. But this is one that makes our list. Oh, there is actually one bit that I do want to share about this particular aloe that kills me. You can get it in different flavors.
I'm not the let's get this in a flavor kind of lady. Even as like safe as some whatever flavors would be, that is just something that I have introduced.
I don't want to taste a lot of things when I'm having sex. In
Nope.
general, I would say I would prefer it to be just a very tasteless situation. Whether we decide that taste is good or bad. Okay, but let's imagine that you have to pick a flavor.
Oh boy. Okay.
So, Kelly, I'll give you your option. You don't have to pick a flavor also. If you're buying this, you can have unflavored, which I need every reasonable person to buy that. But just for fun, Tiffany says you have to pick a flavor.
Okay.
Here you go. Pina colada, peppermint.
I feel some things. Peppermint. Okay.
It's available to you.
It's available.
That would be a good one if you have like a yeast infection. Crotch is on fire. Or like
that's so cool.
On the Peloton for a little bit too long.
Thing.
Give me some peppermint. Vanilla or watermelon? Those are your choices.
I guess I'm going pina colada. Kind of coconutty.
Yeah. It makes you feel like you're on vacation.
Yes, I'm sitting on a tropical island with my lube.
Love your lube on a tropical island. I can picture it now. I don't want the listeners to have to picture that for much longer though. So let's dive into our libido discussion. The number one thing that feels difficult about discussing libido is that nobody ever talks about libido.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when it is talked about, it's not always in like the most vulnerable or honest place. And so everyone just gets mixed messages.
Oh, absolutely. It's like nobody wants to admit that they're struggling in this area because that somehow says something about you. You're less than because
right.
you don't want to have sex right now. Or we can swing to the other way of coping with it unhealthily and be excited about the fact that you're not having sex anymore or as much as you used to, right? Like, so there's two kinds of conversations that typically happen around this in social circles. But clinically, there's not a lot of care providers that are checking in on this with their client. And I consider libido, like the desire for sex, to be somewhat of a vital sign.
It tells you so much about how your body is coping, how safe your body is feeling. I mean, it can tell you a bunch of different things, but just clinically, midwives looking at hormonal imbalances and pelvic floor integrity, all kinds of things. Like, it really does tell us quite a bit.
As you guys know, we like to look back and reference some of the really terrible episodes that we have done on certain topics in the past.
These are all decent.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I went and did a little bit of research, trying to be prepared this time for episodes that we have done on the topic of libido. And we have done 7 other episodes that touch on different aspects of libido, and they're all good. I will let you know what they are. We'll put them in the show notes. So if you're feeling extra curious after this episode and you want to go learn more about things that we have already discussed in the libido realm, we have want to have sex, which just kind of covers the scope of why libido is low, what to do about it. We have scheduling sex, painful sex, sex after kids, increasing intimacy in your relationship, resuming sex after birth, and vaginal steaming for libido.
That one in particular was a fun one for me because it was like a little trial that I did on myself before we recorded.
Yeah, and since you are the expert, Kelly, will you give the audience a auditory recipe for vaginal steaming for libido? Because I feel like it is that simple. Women could listen to you blurb about it for a minute and completely capture it and replicate it.
Yes, absolutely. And you know I love a good audio recipe.
I do know that.
Really enjoy it. This one, you don't have to memorize any numbers. Well, maybe you do. The amount of minutes is in terms of the suggestion. So if you haven't heard about vaginal steaming, it is an age-old practice of literally sitting over hot steaming herbs and allowing that to come and nourish you from going up through your vagina and helping out your reproductive system and your pelvic floor and all kinds of good stuff. In particular, after I had my 3rd baby, a midwife who loves vaginal steaming also, as I was speaking with her about my libido and my issues with vaginal dryness, just with breastfeeding and all that kind of stuff, was like, you really should try vaginal steaming for libido. So very, very simple. What vaginal steaming is going to do is help like bring moisture, blood flow, circulation to the area. Plus, if you're using it right before you have sex, the idea is, hey, I'm thinking about the fact that I'm doing something to want to have better sex. And so that kind of gets you in the mind space too. So all you'll need is a hot pot of boiling water. You can use vaginal steaming herbs, but the hot tip that I discovered was that you don't even need the herbs for this particular purpose. You can just sit for about 10 minutes before having sex over this hot boiling water, steaming water, and think about the fact that you're hopefully going to have some good sex afterwards. That bringing all that kind of circulation and blood flow to the area can be incredibly helpful, to the point where my husband would get excited if I was like, I'm going to steam, because he'd be like, you're actually going to be into it. This is going to be good.
Yeah, that is always the indicator, right? When husbands are like, hey, I like this discipline because it works.
I've seen some good results from it. So super simple. All you need, pot, water, and a vagina, and 10 minutes of your time.
Everybody has that.
I think you do. You know how to boil water. I'm certain of it, ladies. And you know how to sit over it.
Sit over some water.
It's fine.
You do that every time you go to the bathroom.
It's true. Just add some steam to it.
Steamy sit.
So there you go. There's your audio recipe.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're very welcome.
There are a lot of natural things you can do for libido. We're specifically going to go into the herbs that women can take for a libido enhancement, but let's talk just briefly to give women some kind of scope of like, this is so worthy to work on, and there are so many pieces that you can fold in that if herbs is not your thing, you can go investigating some more of these ideas, and then we can leave every single woman with the idea of, even if you're satisfied with your sex life right now and you feel like you have healthy desire, why wouldn't you want to make that even more of a thriving piece of your relationship right now?
Absolutely. So one of the big things that we often tell our clients about is just a simple awareness, keeping a journal or notes on your phone or whatever that kind of track your desire throughout the month, your emotions, when you have sex, how was it, how your sleep is, right? All of those things kind of change how your libido is feeling throughout the month. And so just a simple journaling exercise to connect with this can be really powerful.
The thing that women usually discover while they're doing the journaling is they're actually they actually have more desire than they realized. Once it's on paper and they can see like, oh, I thought we were having sex way less than that, or I thought I was not into it way less than that. And potentially there's so many different circumstances that can come up inside of that space. But I think it's encouraging for women to get some momentum on tracking those pieces because it sometimes is more optimistic than it feels when you're not writing something down.
Yeah, and then you can track victories and stuff too as you keep doing it, right? I worked on this month. This is how it was last month. But look at this. We had more sex, or I wanted more sex, or I initiated, or whatever. It's great. The next one that I think, this is like the crux of, gosh, everything in relationship, but communication. So communicating with your partner about exactly what it is you're feeling, being open, honest. I know some people just get uncomfortable talking about sex, but this is one of the biggest pieces of helping your relationship, especially in this way, thrive. And then that will trickle down to so many other pieces of your relationship. But explaining, hey, this is where I'm at right now. It's not about you. It's not about my love for you, my attraction to you, right? Being open and honest about those things can be really, really powerful so that you guys can come together and make a plan and, just share like my perspective on sex is very different than my husband's perspective. And being able to actually sit down and have an honest conversation about it helps me see from his perspective also, which is obviously a huge part of being in a relationship.
And then there's some like basic tools that sometimes side sweep some of the deeper issues of why is libido low. So we don't want to be trying to like put band-aids on anything, but sometimes women just need some quick wins while they work on their hormone issues, while they get to the pelvic floor therapist, while they wait and have that serious follow-up conversation with their partner, etc. So with that caveat, we mentioned vaginal steaming. We've talked about socks for sleep before, but you guys know we've also shared that it's associated with orgasming more quickly and orgasming with greater satisfaction. Women who wear socks, it's the same kind of core body temperature thing, which I realize is not the sexiest thing in the world.
But the trade-off is having good sex.
I'm keeping my socks on every single time. And of course, we're like decades into having sex with each other. And so nobody cares at all the funny little things that everybody wants to do to make sex good.
I'm just laughing because the last time we had sex, I was like, I stopped and put socks on rather, I was like,
the most of it.
I was like, boy, you gotta hold on. I need my socks.
Socks. Do you want me to enjoy this or not? There's also seed cycling, which can be a big influencer on hormones for women if hormones tend to be the reason that libido is all out of whack. There's a book that shares all about the essential oils for lovemaking and sex stuff, and it's called Lucy Libido. You can find that on Amazon. We can link that in the show notes too. And then let's not overlook health disciplines in general, because again, I would venture to say, should you decide only to work on your libido by getting a handle on your sleep and stress, your diet, your hormones, inflammation, gut health, all of that stuff, I guarantee you that your libido issues are going to also start to resolve.
Yeah, that's like some root cause stuff oftentimes for this in particular. And so it's definitely worth it. In terms of the hormone piece, and honestly, all of this, we have a link in our show notes, but we have a hormone reset invitation for you that is an email series that goes for an entire month, but it builds on itself. And it's one of my favorite things that we have put out into the world because there's so much value, there's so much goodness, and there's so much hope in all of these pieces that you can implement at home yourself to empower yourself and heal a lot of these issues.
I'm so excited about us collectively, mostly you. That was your project. But you did it for us, Kelly.
It's my little baby that I'm like, as I was making it, I was like, this is really good. And it like encouraged me to get back into some of those practices that I was like, this is good. I tell people it's good. I need to actually do it too.
Yeah, and I told Kelly not to run the stuff by me unless she absolutely had to, because I just wanted to be like a joyful recipient of the content. So as she pushed it out, I subscribed, and now every few days I get an email about resetting my own hormones, and I'm just like, this is so good. Kelly made this just for me and just for you ladies too. It is one of those things that after Kelly created it, she realized it should have been a paid product. But we've already committed to the plan of getting it into your hand for free, probably always. So it's an evergreen invitation. You can jump on anytime. And again, you can find that link in our show notes. You will not regret resetting your hormones.
I like talking about me doing something well.
One time.
I did something really good here.
One time you did a good thing.
And it never has happened before, and it never will happen again.
I bet you could do one more good thing.
I probably could pull out one more.
Okay.
Next year.
I'm going to challenge you.
I'm going to invite you.
To do another good thing.
You know what? I'll accept the invitation.
Absolutely.
Great.
Wonderful. Let's dive into herbs to help libido. These are things that you can incorporate into your diet. You can get loose leaf teas and incorporate teas into your lifestyle. You can get these herbs ground up like a powder, like you're used to, getting herbs from the store for cooking. And you can incorporate those into smoothies and shakes and your oatmeal. And I mean, like, there's just a never ending way to apply herbs. If you want like beginners look into using herbs, if it's something you feel really uncomfortable with, but you want to have more of it in your life, jump into our shop at beautifulonemidwifery.com and grab the starter guide to using herbs or something like that.
Starter guide to herbalism. Herbalism?
Herb use for the starter in you.
Hashtag purchase it.
Something like that. It's the only herbal PDF product that we have, and it just gives you a really good foundation for bringing herbs into your household and using them.
It can feel really intimidating starting to use herbs if you're not fully understanding. And obviously not every herb is like great for every person and every season of life and whatever, but that guide in particular helps take some of the intimidation factor out. But once you actually start using them, you're going to be like, oh, why was I ever intimidated by this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, yippee. So the first thing on our list, cinnamon and ginger.
Mm-hmm. They're very warming herbs, and those are the types that are going to like increase some of that blood flow and just be pretty stimulating. And so those are always winners, and you can find those anywhere.
Yeah, and all the other herbs that we're going to mention, I would say just take on a daily basis while you're working on libido. I don't think the timing really matters. It's just something that your body is going to adopt systemically and metabolically. But for cinnamon and ginger in particular, this I would do closer to the time that you're intending on actually having sexy time.
Because if you're doing it in the morning and you don't have sexy time right when you're starting to potentially get some good feedback from it, you're going to be like,
this didn't work.
this is unfortunate that my husband's not home right now.
Yeah. Put you in a little bit of a situation that might discourage you.
Yeah.
Moderate use in pregnancy and breastfeeding is perfectly fine for cinnamon and ginger.
Wonderful. The next one is maca, which I love because it's just got such a crazy long history. And it's pretty rad, like when you actually do read about it, just how when whoever it was in Peru or South America, wherever, figured it out, it's like, everybody's got to know about this. It's just a highly used, really highly nutritious herb too. And that's the thing that I love about herbs. It's like a food as medicine thing. And so there's so much more like nourishment that can come along with them, which is pretty awesome. But it has a history of known increase in sexual desire, in even just like endurance stuff, both physically and mentally. Like it's a good one all around. And there's plenty of women who use it for fertility reasons as well, to kind of increase fertility. Or we see women use it too who are just like, I'm having some period problems, or I'm perimenopausal, or and can find a lot of relief from this one. Like a pretty heavy hitter for women in general, pretty much in all season.
Yeah,
except for pregnancy.
I'd recommend it for someone who's struggling with energy or mental health or libido or period problems. Like, it just is kind of a catch-all that works well for a lot of women. It's rich in amino acids and iodine and iron and magnesium,
which are all so important to like physical functioning altogether, but especially in the thyroid and like the entire endocrine system. Pretty cool to see like how it nourishes that system and in turn gives you these positive outcomes.
And so even though it gets recommended for fertility, once women discover that they're pregnant, they should not use it in their pregnancy anymore, but they can resume in breastfeeding again.
Yes. And I think there's probably women who are like, oh, I've taken it before in pregnant. There's what's hard about herbs is that there's not always a ton of research behind them, because who's funding that research for things that are growing out of the ground, right? But you want to be as wise as you can as you make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, like, we should have said this before we even began, but don't begin any herbal regimen without checking in with your primary care provider.
This is not to be mistaken as medical advice.
Yeah. I do hope that you just send a quick portal message to your MD and ask them what they think about.
What do I think of what? I think he spelled that incorrectly. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, but a naturopath or some other holistic health professional can give you some guidance on these things. You're not sure if it's quite right for you.
Yes.
Next, we have Damiana, which again has a long history of use. With the Aztecs in particular is where we know that this herb comes out of. There's evidence that they have been using it for like over 300 years as an aphrodisiac.
Those Aztecs.
They are intense.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
So last year in homeschooling, we did a history unit, right? And ended up, grazing over some of those ancient cultures. And our kids were obsessed with all of the terrible, grotesque bits of ancient culture that the Aztecs created.
They would play a game where they chose somebody to sacrifice, like human sacrifice. It was
very healthy.
It was concerning, kind of sweet in that I'm like, oh, you're taking a thing that you learned and doing something with it. This is terrible, but we'll allow it.
You're playing together kind of quietly and not bothering me. The one time we had to draw the line was when we went to like a community park and there were other children there, and we were like, you might terrify some of the other children. Actually, you're terrifying. No, and the other children cannot play this game. Now, this is a private Papa Salblinger game only.
Weirdos.
Super weirdos. Damiana works as a progestin receptor binding activity, which is basically It just helps you use the progesterone that your body produces. It opens up those receptors on your cells in order to allow you to use progesterone.
Yeah, which like that's the goal, right? Your body's trying to do a thing, and what this herb is trying to do is help your body do the thing that it wants to do already. This one in particular also for mental health stuff is often recommended in terms of being known as an antidepressant as well, which is a wonderful addition to your repertoire if that is something that you need.
It's also a nervous system stimulant, and so that can be helpful, or some women can be really sensitive to that and potentially not want to take it, within several hours of bedtime. So that's just something to keep in mind, as well as it is not recommended for pregnancy or breastfeeding. So
take that information and go forward with your life.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yep.
Lastly, we have ginkgo, and there's several different kinds of ginkgos.
Is it pronounced ginkgo?
Ginkgo? Oh, crud.
Ginkgo.
Ginkgo?
In my head, it's ginkgo. Is that accurate?
Oh, man.
It doesn't matter.
Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Ginkgo biloba.
Ginkgo biloba.
Ginkgo biloba.
Ginkgo biloba.
Yeah, well, potato.
Yes. Everybody knows what herb you're speaking of.
I have the most familiarity with this herb because, I don't know, at some point growing up, probably in like the 2000s, it was getting pushed so hard on old people for memory function.
I remember there were commercials. I remember when it was like out, like, oh, we discovered this new thing. I'm like, no, knowing now, I'm like, just discovered this. But it's fascinating that like back then commercials were for herbal support.
Never again.
Never. Those were the best of times.
And it is good for brain health and memory, mostly because it stimulates blood flow. So it improves the sexual response. It's good for men and women, but studies are actually better outcomes for women as far as like being able to orgasm, having stronger orgasms, multiple orgasms, just orgasm.
Great.
And it just increases vascular circulation. And so it just brings blood flow.
I like blood flow.
Not safe for pregnancy or breastfeeding either. So take heed.
Take heed, my ladies. Which those internet, like those, 5, 6 that we talked about are probably the most commonly recommended or like talked about for this issue.
I tried to keep it general so it could be accessible.
Yes.
However, there's probably a dozen more herbs that would work more specifically for women, depending on exactly the reasons for their low libido and other things that are going on in their life. So if you feel excited about this information, get in touch with a holistic health professional and get a health history and evaluation taken so that you can get on a really specific plan for herbs and libido.
Yes, absolutely. And another little plug for the Hormone Reset email series. There's an entire email dedicated to herbs and supplements that goes into a bit of depth of how to actually utilize these and what that can look like, that good stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, unlike pharmaceutical solutions for things where you have an issue and you go straight for the medication that deals with that particular issue, there's so much overlap with herbal medicine. And so as you become more and more familiar with natural treatment and using herbs, you start to see like, oh, this one works here, here, and here. I don't have that thing going on. This one works here. And that's something that I didn't even know that you could have treatment for. And so then therefore, as you apply the concept of holistic health, treating your whole self with this, like you said, food is medicine approach, or at least just natural remedy approach, you are able to affect multiple systems in your body, even though you go running after this one thing. Suddenly now you've recognized that it's hitting in multiple areas, which is just exciting. It's what we feel so passionate about. Yeah,
like what a gift for not only yourself, but for like to gain an understanding for the rest of your family too. And so hopefully that feels encouraging and inspiring instead of intimidating for you as you make your way through this episode. And hopefully at the end of all this, you're just feeling like, yes, actually, this is a worthwhile issue to work on. Like, I do want to set some plans in place. I do want to have some good communication. I maybe want to set some goals up for what this looks like for either supporting my system or the communication that I have, and just have some accountability with it.
Absolutely. There was a time many years ago when we first started discussing some of these things, and we had a hashtag sex goals. You remember that?
I did. That's funny. I forgot until you were talking about it. Yep.
Yeah. And we had our whole community commit to what their sex goals were going to be for like a given month. I think we all decided we were going to work on something to improve our sex lives for an entire month. And so the spirit of that can continue. I will not be using that hashtag.
I would not suggest looking at that hashtag.
But the spirit of that is like, send this episode to a friend
Mhm.
and just say, hey, this is something that I'd like to work on. This is something that I want to improve in my life. Can you hold me accountable on that?
Absolutely. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
And to close out this episode, we have a happy little gift.
We're just like Santa Claus all year long.
It kind of feels like that.
I enjoy giving.
I do too. It just makes me excited. I want resources in the hands of women that are going to impact their ability to feel like they have control over their circumstances and their health.
Heck yes.
And so this one in particular, Kelly, you put this together too.
I did another good thing.
This doesn't count as the next thing. This is something you did last year. This is different.
It's already it's in the past.
It's in the past, but you have so far 2 for 2.
Great.
Libido tea freebie.
Yes, a tea filled with herbal yumminess that you can use with the specific goal and intention and desire to encourage your libido, using some of these herbs and a couple other little extra goodies in there to make it actually yummy together as well.
Right. Yeah. So you don't taste like you're eating dirt to try to get horny. Doesn't work for a lot of women, turns out.
That's the new tagline for the libido tea.
Libido tea, not horny dirt.
Don't look at that hashtag either, please.
Never, ever look up that hashtag. Okay, so jump into show notes. Get your love potion recipe, ladies. You'll also find links to the herbs that we discussed so that if you want to purchase and try them yourself, you know exactly good resources that we've already vetted for you are, and you can have an easy time of giving it a try. That's it for this one.
This was 1,000,000 times better than the episode we deleted.
Not even 1,000,000, like 700 billion times better.
I'm really glad we deleted the other one.
Yeah, so if you didn't like this one, just imagine.
Imagine how bad the other one was for this to be so good.
Praises.
Praises. We'll catch you next week, ladies.
Bye.